The health insurance verification alert hit my phone at 2:47 a.m., claiming someone had used my policy number at a clinic in Phoenix while I was pulling guard duty in Afghanistan. Lieutenant Junior Grade Donovan Crane, age 32, Navy Medical Corps, currently deployed at Bagram Airfield. Been here 8 months, never been to Phoenix in my life. I stared at the notification on my iPhone screen. The message showed a claim for $847 at Desert Valley Medical Center. Date stamp read 3 days ago. Tuesday, October 15th. I was treating shrapnel wounds in a field hospital that day. 12-hour shift, documented every minute. The insurance app showed my policy as active. All information correct except one detail. The address listed Phoenix, Arizona instead of my actual residence in Norfolk, Virginia. Someone had changed my primary address without authorization. I opened my banking app. No unusual charges. Credit monitoring showed normal activity. But the insurance discrepancy gnawed at me. Military medical coverage doesn't work that way. You can't just walk into random clinics and use someone else's policy number. I called the insurance fraud hotline. Automated system. Press 1 for this. Press 2 for that. Finally reached a human at 3:15 a.m. Sir, I show recent activity on your account, the representative said. Claims submitted from Arizona, Nevada, and California over the past 6 weeks. Total amount processed is $4,200. My blood went cold. I've been deployed in Afghanistan for 8 months. I see. You'll need to file a fraud report. I'm flagging your account immediately. She transferred me to the fraud department. More questions. More forms. They needed documentation proving my status. Military orders. Base commander verification. The works. I hung up and checked my email. Nothing suspicious. No password reset notifications. No account changes. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. The next morning, I called my dad back in Virginia. Needed to warn him about potential identity theft. Maybe someone had accessed our family information somehow. Donovan, good to hear from you, he said. How's everything over there? Dad, someone's been using my health insurance. Filing fake claims. Did you notice anything weird with mail or documents at the house? Long pause. What kind of documents? Insurance cards, medical records, anything with my policy information. I haven't seen anything like that. But Marissa handles most of the mail now. She's been helping me organize everything since Mom passed. Marissa, Dad's girlfriend of 6 months. Met her at a grief support group after Mom died last year. She'd moved in 3 months ago while I was already deployed. I'd never actually met her face to face. Can you ask her if she's seen anything? Sure, son. I'll check with her tonight. Something in his voice sounded off. Defensive, maybe. Or nervous. I spent the rest of the day running scenarios. Identity theft usually started with stolen mail or compromised personal information. But military personnel had extra protections. Our medical records were heavily secured. Insurance fraud required specific knowledge of policy numbers, verification codes, and personal details. The fraudster knew my exact policy information. They'd changed my address systematically. They'd filed claims across multiple states over 6 weeks. This wasn't random, this was targeted. That evening, I received another insurance alert, this time from a clinic in Las Vegas. $623 for diagnostic imaging. Same pattern. Same fake address in Phoenix. I called Dad again. No answer. Left a voicemail asking him to call back immediately. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed with a text from his number. Everything's fine here. Marissa says she hasn't seen any suspicious mail. Don't worry about us. Focus on staying safe. The message felt wrong. Dad never texted. He always called. And he'd never tell me not to worry about family business. Something was happening back home, and I was 8,000 miles away, completely powerless to stop it. The next morning brought clarity I didn't want. I'd requested emergency leave to handle the insurance fraud, but my commanding officer needed documentation first. Standard procedure. I pulled up my insurance portal to print claim histories and policy details. That's when I saw it. My beneficiary information had been changed. Marissa Chen was now listed as my primary emergency contact and medical proxy. The change was dated 6 weeks ago. Same time frame as the fraudulent claims. My hands went cold. Dad's girlfriend had somehow accessed my military health insurance account. Changed my personal information. Filed fake claims across 4 states. And Dad either didn't know or was helping her. I called the insurance fraud hotline immediately. The investigator, Agent Martinez, walked me through the timeline. The address changes started in early March, first to a Phoenix apartment complex. Then claims began appearing. urgent care visits in Nevada, physical therapy in Arizona, prescription fills in California, all using my policy number and the fake Phoenix address. Lieutenant Crane, this shows sophisticated knowledge of insurance verification systems, Martinez explained. The perpetrator knew exactly which clinics had minimal identity verification. They avoided facilities that required photo ID or military verification. How much total damage? Preliminary estimate is $47,000 across 63 separate claims, but we're still tracking additional activity. $47,000. My stomach dropped. This wasn't opportunistic fraud. This was systematic theft by someone with inside access to my personal information. I needed to call Dad again, this time with direct questions. He answered on the first ring. Donovan, everything okay? Dad, I need to ask you something specific. Has Marissa ever asked about my military benefits? My insurance information? Anything like that? Another long pause. Why would you ask that? Because someone changed my insurance beneficiary information. Someone with detailed knowledge of my policy. The fraud investigator says it required access to verification codes and personal details. Son, I think you're being paranoid. Marissa wouldn't. Dad, she's listed as my emergency contact now. I never authorized that. The change happened 6 weeks ago, right when the fake claims started. Silence on the other. Then Dad's voice, quieter. She said she was helping organize your paperwork, making sure everything was updated while you were deployed. She said it was normal for military families. My chest tightened. What paperwork, Dad? What did you give her access to? She needed your insurance cards to update the address, said mail was getting lost. And she helped me organize your room, your documents. She was just trying to help. My room? Dad, what documents were in my room? Your military records, insurance information. The folder you left with all your paperwork? Everything clicked into place. Marissa had convinced Dad she was helping. Gained access to my personal documents. Used my insurance cards and policy information to create a systematic fraud operation. And Dad had unknowingly enabled every step. Dad, I need you to listen carefully. Marissa has been filing fake insurance claims using my information. The fraud investigator estimates $47,000 in stolen benefits. She's committed federal insurance fraud. That's impossible. She's been taking care of me. She wouldn't. Dad, that is clear. She changed my address to a fake apartment in Phoenix, filed claims at clinics across 4 states, used my military insurance to pay for medical services she never received. This is serious federal crime. Long silence. Then Dad's voice, barely audible. What do I do? First, don't confront her. Don't let her know we're investigating. Second, I need you to secure any remaining documents she might have access to. Third, the insurance investigator will need to interview you. Donovan, I trusted her. After your mother died, she was the only person who understood what I was going through. She helped me through the worst time of my life. I know, Dad. That's exactly how these predators operate. They target vulnerable people, gain trust, then exploit that trust for financial gain. I spent the next hour coordinating with Agent Martinez. She would contact local law enforcement in Dad's city, begin surveillance on Marissa's activities, track the fake Phoenix address, build a comprehensive case file. But first, we needed more. Martinez suggested I call Dad back and ask him to check for any additional documents Marissa might have taken. Insurance cards, military ID copies, anything with my personal information. Dad called me back 20 minutes later. His voice was shaking. Donovan, I found something. In her purse. Copies of your insurance cards. And a notebook with clinic names and addresses. Phone numbers. Dollar amounts. It's all written down. Dad, don't touch anything else. Leave everything exactly where you found it. The investigators will need to document everything as. There's more. I checked our computer. She's been using it to access insurance websites. The browser history shows dozens of medical clinic sites. Insurance verification pages. She's been planning this for months. The scope of Marissa's operation was becoming clear. This wasn't impulsive fraud. She'd systematically researched clinics with weak verification systems, mapped out a multi-state operation, used my father's grief and trust to gain access to my personal information, then executed a sophisticated insurance fraud scheme while I was deployed and unable to monitor my accounts. Agent Martinez called me back that evening with an update. Local police had confirmed the fake Phoenix address was a mail forwarding service. Marissa had been collecting insurance reimbursement checks there for 6 weeks. They'd also identified her real address and background. Lieutenant Crane, your father's girlfriend has a history. 3 prior arrests for identity theft and insurance fraud in 2 other states. She specifically targets military families and elderly widowers. This appears to be her standard operating procedure. My father had been targeted by a professional predator, someone who specialized in exploiting grieving families for financial gain. The betrayal cut deeper than just the stolen money. She'd manipulated Dad's grief over Mom's death to gain access to our family's financial information. But now we had XA, documentation, a clear pattern of criminal behavior. And most importantly, we had Dad's cooperation in building the case against her. The investigation was just beginning, but the betrayal was complete. Agent Martinez coordinated with local Phoenix police to set up surveillance on the mail forwarding service. Within 48 hours, they had Marissa on camera collecting another reimbursement check. The West Building, but they needed more for a solid case. We want to catch her in the filing fraudulent claims, Agent Martinez explained during our secure video call. Your father's cooperation will be crucial for the sting operation. Dad agreed immediately. His guilt over being manipulated had transformed into cold determination. We planned a controlled scenario where he would confront Marissa about suspicious mail while wearing a recording device. The goal was to get her to admit details about the insurance fraud on tape. The setup took 3 days. Local agents briefed Dad on conversation techniques designed to elicit confessions. They installed recording equipment in his living room and positioned surveillance teams around his neighborhood. I monitored everything remotely from Bagram through encrypted communications. On Thursday morning, Dad called Marissa and asked her to come over to discuss some confusing insurance paperwork he'd received. She arrived within an hour, apparently confident that her operation remained undetected. The conversation started normally. Dad showed her legitimate insurance documents and asked basic questions about coverage. Marissa played helpful and concerned. But when Dad mentioned receiving calls about claims he didn't recognize, her tone shifted. Sometimes insurance companies make mistakes, she said carefully. You shouldn't worry about every little discrepancy, Dad pressed harder. But these claims are for medical services in Phoenix, and I've never been to Phoenix. And they're using Donovan's insurance information. There was a long pause on the recording. Then Marissa's voice changed completely. Look, Harold, your son makes good money in the military. His insurance covers things that regular people can't afford. I just helped access some benefits that were going unused anyway. It's not like we're hurting anyone. You stole his identity while he's deployed, fighting for this country. I borrowed his information temporarily. The insurance company has plenty of money. They'll never miss a few $1,000s. And Donovan will never know if you don't tell him. Dad kept pushing for details. Marissa, apparently believing she could still manipulate him, began explaining her system. How she'd photographed my insurance cards while Dad was sleeping. Used his computer to research clinics with minimal verification procedures. Created fake addresses to receive reimbursement checks. I've done this before. Harold, it's a victimless crime. Insurance companies expect a certain amount of fraud. It's built into their business model. The recording captured everything. Her admission of prior fraud, details about her methodology, even her attempt to convince Dad to become an active participant by providing more family financial information. Agent Martinez called me immediately after reviewing the recording. We have enough for arrest and prosecution. Multiple felony counts of insurance fraud, identity theft, and wire fraud. The recorded confession ties everything together. Local police arrested Marissa that afternoon as she left Dad's house. They executed search warrants on her apartment and the mail forwarding service simultaneously. The recovery was extensive. Copies of my insurance cards, notebooks detailing her fraud operation, reimbursement checks totaling $47,000, and computer files showing similar schemes targeting other military families. The Regional Insurance Crime Consortium took over the case due to its multi-state scope. Agent Wilson, who specialized in health insurance fraud, became the lead investigator. His team discovered that Marissa had been operating this scheme for over 2 years, targeting at least 12 military families across 6 states. Your case broke open a much larger operation, Agent Wilson explained. She specifically researched deployed service members because they're less likely to monitor their insurance claims in real time. Your father's cooperation was instrumental in stopping her. The prosecution moved quickly. Marissa's public defender attempted to negotiate a plea deal, but the Warripi was overwhelming. The recorded confession, combined with documented financial losses and her criminal history, made trial pointless. She pleaded guilty to 15 felony counts across multiple jurisdictions. The judge sentenced her to 8 years in federal prison and ordered full restitution to all victims. My portion of the restitution was $47,000 plus legal fees and credit monitoring costs. But the case had broader implications. Agent Wilson's team used the From Marissa's operation to identify weaknesses in insurance verification systems. They worked with major insurance providers to implement stronger identity verification procedures for military families. I also connected with other victims through the investigation. 3 were still deployed when Marissa targeted their families. We formed an informal support network, sharing information about protecting financial accounts during and recognizing signs of family-targeted fraud. The experience taught me that betrayal often extends beyond the immediate victim. Marissa had exploited Dad's grief, my status, and the insurance system's trust-based verification procedures. Her crime was calculated predation disguised as a romantic relationship. 6 months later, I received the final restitution payment. My credit reports were clean. The insurance companies had updated their verification procedures, and Dad had started attending a support group for fraud victims. Justice had been served, but the scars remained visible in Dad's increased caution around new relationships and my heightened vigilance about financial security during deployments. 12 months later, I was back stateside at Fort Carson, Colorado. The rotation had ended 3 weeks after Marissa's sentencing. The transition from Bagram's constant to Colorado's mountain air felt surreal. My apartment was sparse, but functional. No photographs on the walls. No personal items that couldn't fit in a single duffel bag. The experience with Marissa had reinforced my preference for simplicity. Dad visited twice since my return. He looked older, but more alert. The support group had helped him recognize manipulation tactics. He'd started dating again. Carefully this time. Background checks. Slow introductions. No financial information shared until after 6 months. "I should have protected you better," he said during his last visit. "You couldn't have known," I replied. "She was a professional." The insurance fraud case had expanded beyond Agent Wilson's initial investigation. Marissa's methods were now taught in fraud prevention seminars across multiple agencies. The verification procedures we'd helped develop were implemented nationwide. I testified at 2 additional trials involving her accomplices. Both resulted in convictions. The network she'd operated was larger than anyone initially suspected. 17 victims across 8 states, all military families with deployed members. My financial accounts remained locked down. Credit monitoring alerts arrived weekly, usually false alarms. But I checked every notification. Trust required verification now. The VA had contacted me about joining their fraud prevention outreach program. I coach veterans on navigating VA claims and avoiding fraud. The work felt purposeful, turning my experience into protection for others. Last month, I'd helped a Marine sergeant identify suspicious activity on his disability claim. His ex-wife had been filing false appeals using his information. We caught it before any payments were processed. The cases were always different, but the pattern remained consistent. Someone close to the service member exploiting their status, or military benefits for financial gain. Agent Wilson still sent updates about related cases. The Insurance Fraud Consortium had prevented an estimated $2.3 million in fraudulent claims using the verification procedures developed for Marissa's case. Dad called every Sunday now. We talked about normal things. Weather, sports, his job at the hardware store. Neither of us mentioned Marissa unless discussing the ongoing legal proceedings. The final restitution payment had arrived 6 months ago. My accounts were whole. The credit damage had been repaired. But the hypervigilance remained. I'd learned that betrayal leaves invisible scars. Not dramatic wounds that demand attention, but subtle changes in how you process trust. Every new relationship required additional verification. Every financial transaction needed extra scrutiny, but the work with other veterans provided balance. Helping them avoid similar exploitation gave meaning to the experience. Each case prevented was another family protected from the kind of calculated predation Marissa had perfected. The mountain view from my apartment window never changed. Solid. Reliable. Predictable. After 18 months of chaos and investigation, predictability felt like luxury. It was finally over, and the silence felt earned.